4 years in the making, over 199 different indie comic creators interviewed, 67 hours recorded, 10,000 views. None of that would be possible if it wasn't for you watching at home. Thank you, and thank you to all 199 indie comic creators. Thank you for taking the time to come talk with me. Now, please enjoy Comic Chat Authority's 200th interview with Jimmy Palmiotti.
So how's it going, my Comic Chat Army? We're here today with Jimmy Palmiotti, the creator of The Pro, Crab Queen, Painkiller Jane, and a few more. And you've done work for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and Image.
I work for everybody. When you work in comics, everybody's a client. You know, you can be more loyal to one company or another, but in the end, it's probably best for any freelancer to work everywhere. You know. Yeah.
So you started at Marvel in '91.
I did.
How did that come about?
I was working in advertising, and I was doing some comics on the side, like little indie comics. And I had a buddy of mine who was working for Marvel at the time. His name was Mark Texera, and we went to school together. So Mark was drawing Ghost Rider, and he was drawing the Punisher at the same time. And it was too much work for him, and he called me up, and he just said, "Look, I need some help. Can you help me out with this?" And of course, I jumped at the opportunity because I got to work up in the bullpen at Marvel and DC. So that was pretty cool, you know. And so I worked there after 5 o'clock at night. People would go home, and some of the artists would stay. You know, they would stay there and work. And so pretty much I would work after hours, and I would help him get the books in. And while he was doing that, and while I was helping him, I would walk around and give my samples to the editors and try to pick up work myself. And eventually, maybe I was annoying, or maybe, you know, eventually they just wanted to get rid of me. Whatever. I started getting work there, and then that's pretty much how I started. I started getting inking work, and I did some penciling work in the beginning, but mostly it was inking, and that went on for the next 10 years. And so that's how I broke in. I broke in helping a buddy, which makes total sense to me in my life, you know?
Yeah. That's what I hear, that everyone I've asked about Marvel, they say you don't call Marvel, Marvel calls you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of times, like, so there's like some people in our business that are brilliant. Like, they're just the greatest artist or the greatest writer. And sure, they go after them. But a lot of people started just helping other people, getting their foot in the door. And it's still on some level, you know, you see people on the internet, they put their artwork online and hope that somebody notices. And let me tell you, if you're really amazing, they're going to notice you and eventually get in contact with you when you're a standout. Because there's a lot of great artists, but there's a lot less standouts. The people that are amazing usually get picked up right away, and every company will fight over them. And it's always up to the creator, you know, to say, okay, what do I really want to do? Do I want to work for Marvel? I want to work for DC, or who's paying me the most? You know, that comes up. Those are good problems. But a lot of it is just, you know, the opportunity at the time. I've always worked for everybody. So even though I worked for Marvel at the time, I also work for other companies. I work for Dark Horse. I work for Image. I work for everybody because every time I moved from one job to another, I would ask for a little bit more on my page rate. And sometimes it was only $5 or $10. But if you move enough, you know, that starts to add up after a while.
Right.
Especially if you're doing it long as I have.
After 32 years, yeah.
Well, you know, so comics is one of the few businesses where after 32 years, your rate isn't that different than when you started, sadly. But that's the way the world is.
Yeah. And you're putting out really good stuff here recently. You just put out your newest book.
What was The Hunters. Yes.
Yeah, The Hunters. Yeah, thank you.
That's all right. That was a Kickstarter we did. Very successful. We actually got the books turned over pretty quick and out the door and into everybody's hands. So we promised it in the month of we actually promised it for January, but we got most of the books to people in December. With so many people not delivering their Kickstarters on time, we have to do the opposite. We have to set the example. And we're with PaperFilms, we're pretty much the fans are our whole business. So we like to spoil the hell out of them whenever we can.
And you turned Painkiller Jane into a movie once.
Yeah, so as Joe Quesada and I came up with Painkiller Jane, as an indie comic, we published it through our own company called Event Comics in like '94. And since then, it was a sci-fi 2-hour movie, the first time it was on. And then a couple of years later, they picked it up as a series. So it actually was a 22 one-hour episode series starring Kristanna Loken, who you may remember from Terminator 3. She was the blonde Terminator. And she was Painkiller Jane. So that was 22 episodes. And to this day, we've sold the property a couple of times. Nothing's been done. I think the last one was with Jessica Chastain. And that turned into a big dead end eventually with her. But it's always out there. And I'm always still doing a new Painkiller Jane book. I do at least 1 or 2 a year. It's a character I love. And we've had toys, we've had action figures, we've had dolls, we had T-shirts and pillows with it. It's not a gigantic character, but it's one of the ones I'm known for. And I love the character. I love working on that character.
The wife read some of Painkiller Jane, and she likes her. She liked what you did.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, it's when I wrote it, it was my pushback to a lot of the comics that were very much like TNA books. It's like I said, I could write a tougher girl. She doesn't have to be built that way, and I modeled her after a couple of people I know, and it just. The character, when we first did the series, it was like for all ages, and now because I do the Kickstarters, it's for adults only. It's meaning adults, meaning 18 and over. There's nothing really hardcore about it, but there is nudity and there is violence. So the character's evolved a little bit since we first created her, but she's one of the consistent characters I work on in comics. I still go back once in a while and work on Harley, and I still go back once in a while and work on Punisher or Power Girl or something like that. It's just after a long career, you get known for certain characters, and I enjoy writing all of them. So that's it's a good thing.
So when they give you a character, do they give you stipulations, or they just say, "Hey, here's this character, and here's all the last 20 or 12 years history of that character"?
So it's different every time, because sometimes you're just the guy taking over the book at issue 185, and they just tell you, keep in line with what we're doing. Sometimes you're starting it from scratch, and they want you to bring more of yourself into the character. For a character like Harley Quinn, they asked us to give our version of what was the known character, and somebody like Jonah Hex, just give us more of the same. Give me a good Western story with this main character in it. But if you're going to be like in the mainstream books, which I'm really not, I'm always in the books are a little off to the right or left. If you're going to be in the mainstream, you do have to follow the editorial. They're going to tell you, look, we need 6 issues of Superman. We've been building up to this. If you can take it over and do that with it. And, and then you have to work within their perimeters. I mean, it is their characters. So we do kind of work. Part of the freelance job is to kind of work with what they choose to give us. And we have the choice of saying yes or no to it. I do say no to a lot of work because I know it's not really something I want to do. And I hate to do things that I'm not passionate about. So I do turn down work a lot. And, but when I do take it on, it's because I really want to do it. And I'm hoping that shows in the work itself.
Is there a character you wanted to work on that you haven't had the chance to work on yet?
I've never written the Fantastic Four, and that's one I grew up with. I'd say Fantastic Four, maybe Archie comics, just because I read it as a kid. And then at DC, I kind of worked on everything, every character they had at one point. I wrote some Batman, I wrote some Superman, and I wrote some Wonder Woman. So I hit the top 3 there, and yeah, there's not a lot because I kind of worked on everything. I've kind of done again, it's a long career. Anything I really wanted to do, I went after. So, yeah, just a fantastic boy. And it's not like I'm dying to do it. It's just something I haven't written that I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, I think the way you would do it would breathe a life of fresh air into the Fantastic Four. I think they get overlooked a lot.
I kind of, the part I love about it is that they're a family. So I kind of like the idea of a family of superheroes that are just driving each other crazy. And I think I think that's what's always fun about them. As insane as they are, they get together in the end and save the day. And I grew up reading the Kirby and the Stanley and Kirby FF, like from when it started. When I was a kid, so at least 150, 200 issues of the book. So I feel like I know them. Like I feel like if I write Johnny, I can hear his voice. If I write Ben, I can hear his. Ben sounds like every guy I knew in Brooklyn. And then Reed and Sue. Like when you feel that the characters, you can hear them in your head. It's probably a good thing that when you get to write them. And I will say, sometimes I'm offered characters and I'm like, I don't get this character. Doctor Strange is one. Like I got offered Doctor Strange at Marvel, and I turned it down because I said I'm the wrong guy for this character. I'm not a big fan of magic, and I love the character, but I don't want to write it. I just want to read it. So I turned it down. And I remember the editor telling me, you're the first person ever to turn down Doctor Strange. And I said, well, give it to the next guy or the next girl. I'm sure they're going to write it much better than me. So, and they probably did.
And you're coming out with a Spawn book soon, Tales of the Gunslinger?
Yeah, Tales of the Gunslinger comes probably, it's going to be in the fall. I think it's fall. It was originally going to come out sooner, and then because Todd's launching a lot of other books, they're pushing it a little later, which I'm really happy about because I get to kind of get a lot in the drawer, get a lot done before anybody ever sees it. And that's the perfect case scenario with comics, is to have at least 6 or 8 issues done before the first one ever comes out. Todd is a stickler for having his books come out on time. And he's also a stickler for keeping the prices down on the books and the quality high. So when you work for Todd, it's like another standard that you have to hit. And I love the fact that he's so passionate about these characters. And his book I'm writing is completely insane. I mean, it's Gunslinger. In the regular Gunslinger, he's in present day. He's a guy taken from the Old West in present day. Mine, it's all his stories about when he was in the Old West. So it's a lot less power driven because the book is about his first days being the gunslinger. So it's when he first got his powers and he's learning. So he's not as powerful as he is in the new books, and also he's dealing more with the real world in the past. Although I do have all the other Spawn characters do make appearances that would make sense to the time frame, because we use a lot of what the world that Todd set up. But it is his first days being the gunslinger, and the book is quite. Patrick Reynolds is drawing it, and it's quite brutal. It's a overly violent Western gunslinger madness. Like I don't even know. I'm guessing it borderlines horror at some point because of some of the stuff that happens in the series. But I think the people that read the regular Gunslinger are gonna like this because they're not gonna feel like it's just more of the book that Todd's doing. They're gonna feel like they're getting to see the character in a little different light, and again, a younger light. He's definitely learning, and we actually learn his backstory and about his family and how he got to become the gunslinger, and that happens over time. If you read Gunslinger 1, there was a story in the backup that is like kind of teases a little bit of it, and it's funny because I just picked up the trade. It's around me here somewhere. I have too many comics around, but there's a little tease of it, and what we did is we dissected what I think in Gunslinger 13 we see some of the origin when he first turns to the gunslinger, and what Patrick and I did is we took that scene and then build the whole story around it. So you actually see the full story of what happened instead of just the tease of him getting dragged and then he becomes gunslinger. Like Todd didn't want it. Todd let us tell the bigger story, and yeah, so I'm excited about that because it's the first time I'm working with Todd and in his universe, and it's been great. He's a guy that has no problem getting on Skype with you and talking and telling you what he's looking for, and it's very refreshing because a lot of people hire you and just say do what you want, and that's okay. But Todd, these are his babies, so he's kind of babysitting them all, and I like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for Tales of the Gunslinger to come out. I'm excited for it.
Hey, thanks.
Like, it
Well,
feels.
you're a big Spawn fan,
I am.
right? So you got all the issues, you got all this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And he creates this. Todd created this big universe of characters that all coexist. So for him to hand it off to some other people to write, it's a big deal for him.
Oh yeah.
It's not a casual thing. And I knew that because when I was asked, Thomas Healy, the editor, asked me if I'd be interested. I was like, "Yeah, you kidding me?" I said, "Of course I'm interested." I said, "What?" I said, "Are you serious?" I was just like, I remember I was at the New York Comic Con and he came over and introduced himself and he's like, "Yeah, I work with Todd and blah blah. Would you be interested in doing like a Western gunslinger thing?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And I thought it was one of those things that happens at the cons. People ask you, and then a month later they forgot that they asked you.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not the case with Thomas. We followed up, and bang! All of a sudden, I'm working on the book, and we got an artist, and so it's been really good, and I'm excited for everybody to see it. If they hate it, I'm going to go run into a cave and hide. But I think they're going to like it. I'm trying to make it as fun as I can. And Patrick is making it cinematic and grounded. Like this is the real world with crazies. But we have guys that split in half, and we have all this crazy stuff in it. That's just, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
So, do you get to pick your team of artists and everybody, or they just give them to you?
Todd's guys picked Patrick Reynolds. They actually showed me his work, and I was like, if you can get this guy, get him. And they did. So they just wanted to make sure I was okay with his storytelling. Before I look at the actual drawings, I look at if he could tell a story, like in 3-4 panels. And his storytelling was cinematic. It was excellent. And then his artwork, when he started drawing the pages, I was sold even more. I was like, okay, this is the perfect guy for the book. Because we didn't want it to look like the modern book. We didn't want it to look like that. We needed it to have a different look to it. So when you see it, you can see it's a grittier, darker, more visceral kind of look than the comics, the comics that Todd works on, because those are more visually big and wild, and this is very solemn, and the world is grounded, and it's dark and it's evil. There's a lot of evil out there, so it's fun.
Where are you going to be at this year?
Well, I got coming up on the 26th, 7th, and 8th is the OAX Con. It's Original Art Expo in Orlando, and that's the first one. That's coming up in a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to be at Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle at the end of February, and then the beginning of March, I'm at the Kansas City Comic Con, which is a big one in Kansas City. It's terrific. And then from there, I have the usual stuff. We have if you go to paperfilms.com and you subscribe, you'll see a pop-up and you can subscribe and you get a mailer and it tells you all the cons we're going to be at. So, we only bug you like once or twice a month. So that's the only time you'll get an email. But it usually has artwork and where we're going to be and what new things we have, or new Spawn art, or new, we show off a little bit of art here and there. But those are the initial ones, every year I do San Diego and certain cons I do, but we're trying to bounce around a little bit more this year,
Let's see. I'm trying to think what to ask you. I ran out of ideas real quick.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I'm, it's we're both Florida boys. We're both in Florida. So, we're both enjoying this weather while everybody's crying about the snow. My friends keep sending me videos of them shoveling their cars out, or I don't know if you noticed a large amount of videos today of cars sliding on ice and hitting each other. I think the algorithm is of car crashing in ice today, because every time I turn on something, I see it. But no, like I said, a lot of people don't know that I have my office in a comic shop. You know that. Emerald City Comics in Clearwater has it's a beautiful store, big store. But I'm in the back of it, and I always tell people if they visit the store, just ask the staff if I'm in the back. I'll come out and say hi. And I do. When I'm there, somebody's always like, "Hey, Jimmy," I'm like, "Yeah, come out and say hi." And I like talking to the people, like to hear what they're buying. And you buy a lot of comics too, right? Correct?
Yep, I do. Which I am up to issue 3 or 4 on the Deviant. I like that.
Deviant, yeah. There's a lot of good books, but you have to kind of like, it's sort of like the TV now with all the stations. You have to kind of pick through them.
Yep.
There's good stuff, but there's so much. I mean, I look at the wall and there's like 80 books a week coming in, and most of them aren't good. I'll be honest. Most of them are just okay. They're trying out an idea or whatever. And the good stuff, eventually you hear about the good stuff. People talk about the good stuff. That's how I learn what to buy too. I hear people talking about, hey, you got to check out this book and that book. I just think there's so many out right now. It's like TV state. It's like I can't have Apple TV and Netflix and this, and all of a sudden my TV is going to be $300 a month, and Paramount and Showtime Plus. Oh my God, HBO. It's crazy. But that's also the fun part of comics is there's a lot of variety. So there's something for everybody.
What books are you reading right now?
I'm not reading much. I'm because I work so much, I'm looking around me. I got this in the mail, the latest Lady Death.
Yeah.
I backed the Kickstarter. And God, I have so much stuff. I have too much stuff, man. I have so many comics.
That's a good problem.
It is. I look behind me. I'm reading right now one of the Hellboy books. It's this black and white Hellboy book that has the original art in it, which I love. But there's so much. I honestly, because I'm writing so much, I try not to read so much, because it gets really confusing for me to have like 18 things going on in my head. I've also been coloring comics lately too, do more coloring of my wife's work. But that's about it, man. Yeah, it's. I'm looking around. I just got walls of comics. I'm looking. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fun, and I also draw all the time. So my when I'm writing, I kind of doodle to kind of clear my brain.
How is it working on a comic book with your wife?
It's great. She's so talented that whatever I write, she makes it better. Amanda, like, she really takes whatever I do and takes it to the next level. She's upstairs, I'm downstairs, so our studios are separate, which is probably healthy for any husband and wife working. I don't think they should be in the same room. They probably want to kill each other. No, but she's amazing. I mean, she's just I love her art. I wish every book I do would be with her. That would be great. But I am lucky with my other artists. I do tend to get some great artists to work with. I'm really picky with my artwork, so I will drive somebody crazy. But I always say it's the voice of experience that is driving you crazy. It's not just random crazy. That's it, man. That's what's going on.
So when y'all are not working together, do y'all talk about comics on your free time?
No.
Yeah.
Not unless it's something we're working on where we're trying to figure it out. Otherwise, we travel, we go out to movies, we do what everybody else does. Dinner is a big thing, and the comics are kind of like what we do. It's sort of like a mechanic talking about engines all day. It's like, it's what we do. We will talk to people that are interested in things, but we're not all about comics. I mean, we both we both love watching TV, man. We like watching shows and stuff. So we talk a lot about that. You know, like any couple, we kind of we talk about everything and anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, I guess just if you guys that are watching, if you want to check out my work, go to PaperFilms.com. Check out the website. Sign up for the mailer, and if you're on Instagram or Twitter, X or Instagram, it's under my name, Jimmy Palmiotti. You can find me very easy. Follow me. You can always ask me questions. I answer everybody. So,
all right. Thank you, Jimmy, for taking the time to come talk with me.
Thank you, buddy. It's great.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comic Chat Authority? Oh, come on. Subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.